lot of people always ask me, why does my avoidant ex seem fine after the breakup? And then months or even years later, they suddenly regret the breakup. And see, the answer isn't what most people think. With avoidance, they don't regret breakups on the fly right when it happens. They tend to regret things after the pressure is gone. So while they're in the relationship, the nervous system is often overloaded. So they're managing trying to stay close to you, they're managing expectations, emotions, conflict, responsibilities, and their own internal fears all at once. And even if they love you, their body doesn't experience love as calm. It experiences it as stress. And the reason for this is because they're holding on to too much unresolved stress. So instead of feeling the good parts clearly, they mostly focus on surviving the intensity. When an avoidant feels overwhelmed, their brain goes into protection mode. And that means they're not processing emotions the way a secure or an anxious person does. They're focused on the relief, not the reflection. They're trying to get relief from pressure, from expectations, and from the emotional demands. And that's why, during the relationship or after the breakup, they can seem cold or detached or even strangely okay. But they're not. And it has nothing to do with them not caring, but it's about their nervous system is finally quiet. But here's the part that most people don't understand. Avoidants have a delayed emotional processing. So when the relationship ends, the stress drops, the arguments stop, the emotional urgency disappears, and no one is asking them to talk or decide or commit, explain or fix anything. So that's when their brain finally feels safe enough to look back at things. And then that's when the regret starts. Once the nervous system calms, the avoidant brain regains access to empathy, memory, and emotional meaning. So they begin to remember how you showed up, how you cared, and what they lost. They think about what they didn't say, what they didn't appreciate at the time, and they think about what they could have done better. And see, during the relationship, those feelings were buried underneath all the stress and overwhelmed. And after the relationship, they rise to the surface. And this is why avoidants often say things like, I didn't realize what I had, or I miss you now, but I didn't back then, or I thought I needed space, and now I feel empty. And see that? It has nothing to do with manipulation. It's delayed awareness. Another reason avoidants regret later is because they often make decisions under stress, not real clarity. So they can actually break up with you only because they're stressed out, and they don't really know it. They'll think you're the problem. So when they're overwhelmed, they convince themselves the relationship is the problem, and they focus on flaws and incompatibilities or logic-based reasons to leave because logic feels safer than emotion. And they may tell themselves, this isn't right. This shouldn't be this hard. I feel trapped. I just need to be alone. And see, those thoughts help them regulate in that moment. It calms the nervous system enough to escape the intensity. But once time passes and the emotional load is gone, those justifications don't hold up in the same way. The fear is gone, so the story changes. And now they feel what they've avoided before. Regret also happens because avoidants suppress the grief. They don't usually cry right away. They don't always miss you immediately. They don't sit in sadness at first. Instead, they distract themselves. They stay busy. They move on quickly with a rebound, get on dating apps. They numb out. They tell themselves they're fine. But suppressed emotions do not disappear. Those emotions are still there in the body, and they wait. Eventually, something slows them down. a quiet night, a failed rebound, a new relationship that doesn't feel the same, or even seeing you move on. And suddenly that's when everything hits. That's when regret feels overwhelming because it arrives all at once. Avoidants also regret later because they realize they didn't show up as their best self, and it's embarrassing. They feel shamed. And when they're calm, they can finally see. I shut down. I didn't communicate. I pulled away instead of fixing things. I might have hurt someone who only tried to love me. But by that time they reach that awareness, the relationship is already over. And here's an important part most people miss. Avoidant regret doesn't mean they'll come back and take action. Because see, regret lives internally for avoidants for many, many years. They may feel it too deep and struggle to reach out, to apologize, or to repair, because acting on regret requires vulnerability, and vulnerability still feels unsafe to them. So they just sit with it quietly. They think about you in private. They replay the conversations that you've had, and they wonder all the what ifs, and they feel guilt, sadness, and wanting you, but they don't always express it. That's why you don't see the regret on the avoidant. And another reason avoidants regret relationships later is because love felt safer once it was no longer demanding anything from them. When there's no expectations, no pressure, no emotional responsibility, no fear of failing someone, only memory, it feels safe. So if you are wondering whether an avoidant regrets losing you, the answer is this. They often do, just not on your timeline and not in the way that you expect. Their regret comes after the nervous system calms, or after the fear fades, or after the relationship is already over. And that's one of the hardest parts about loving an avoidant. Their clarity arrives late. But just understand that their feelings for you were real.